Elizabeth Road Studio. I'm so glad you could join me today. We're going to be making these Heart and Soul Makers kits. I'm going to start by checking my contents and making sure everything's in there. You'll have a packing list when you open it up. I should have some paint, my packet of art resin. I call this liquid gold. A couple of bags of glass, gloves, a heart template, 2 pieces of reclaimed wood, thumbtacks, hangers, a sponge brush, and a glue pen. To get started, I'm going to look at my pieces of wood and decide which side I need to make my artwork on. These are reclaimed wood pieces, so they're going to be a little bit rough, but the rougher side is the side that you want to make your artwork on. It'll have these shaved edges or sanded edges, and then the back side's going to be really slick and smooth. So I'm going to start by turning them over, and I'm going to put my thumbtacks in the back of them. These are going to act as little legs so that when you pour the resin, after you're finished and you pour the resin on your artwork, it'll drizzle off onto the table and won't puddle or pool over your glass. So after I put one in each corner, I'm going to turn them over and make sure that they're somewhat level. And now we're ready to start. I'm going to start by putting my gloves on. Next, you'll want to take your bottle of paint. I'm going to give it a little shake and just pour some on each of the pieces of wood. Using my sponge brush, I'm going to cover the wood. You can use as much or as little coverage as you'd like. I'm going to also make sure I cover my sides because I think that just makes it look a little more finished. And that's about as much paint as I want to put on that one. Again, if you want to do a couple of coats, go right ahead. Some people like to cover theirs completely. It will soak into the wood, so you might want to go over some of the places. And you'll want to let that dry for just a few minutes. The next thing we're going to do is get out our heart template and figure out which one you want to use for your heart. I think I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to find where I want it to go on my piece and open up my glue pen. I'm going to use my glue pen for tracing. It just takes out one of the steps, but if you prefer to use a pencil, you are welcome to. This just seems to be really easy. And then I won't have to worry about covering any pencil lines with my glass. I'm going to go over it one more time so I can see it a little bit better. This glue is going to act as a little dam to hold all of our glass in. So we're going to place our glass along the edge of that glue line. What you're going to use for your heart is this bag of a lot of larger multicolored pieces. I'm just going to dump it out onto my plastic. You're going to start placing your glass along the edge first. We're going to do this kind of like a coloring book where you color along the edge first and then fill in. I'm going to go all around the edge, laying my glass up against the edge of that glue line and filling in. This is where you could think about if you had some special piece of jewelry that you'd like to include, or a piece of grandma's broken candy dish, or a pearl of some off of a dress or a button or a cork from your wedding or a special date. This would be a beautiful thing to include in this heart piece because it really doesn't matter what you put on here. The resin is going to hold it. The only thing you need to refrain from using would be anything with moisture in it, like dried flowers. As long as they have any moisture in them at all, they could make your resin cloudy. If you dried them in silica gel, they should be fine. I'm going to continue all the way around with this glass. And I like mine all mixed together, but you could certainly separate it into cool colors and warm colors. You could do a gradation based on what you have in your bag of glass, whatever you want. I like mine all mixed together. So now that I've finished all the way around the edge of the heart, I'm going to start filling in the inside. And you can pile up this glass as high as you'd like. You should have more than enough to fill in the inside. But if you would like to add anything to it, you're welcome to do so at this point. This one has a little heart in it and a little marble. I'm going to put those so that you can see them. Love that piece of glass. And there's your heart. I'm gonna move this one aside and get started on my cross. To make the cross, you're gonna use the bag that has the sticks and then the crumbles of little pieces in it. I'm gonna take the sticks of glass out and leave the little tiny, I call it confetti glass, leave the tiny confetti glass in the bag. All of these are going to be different. There are several different colors that you could have for the cross. So if yours looks different from mine, don't be worried. I'm going to use my glue pen to draw a cross on my board. One long line down and one shorter line across. Let's just lay our pieces down and kind of figure out where we want to put them. I like to do one of the glass pieces standing up and one of them laying down, but you do it however you want to. This is your artwork. I just like the dimension. I like that it adds a little bit more texture. I'm gonna do the short one to build up that layer and then add this up on top. I just like the way the ones standing up look. And you can use glue on it if it helps you to balance those pieces or to help them stand up. If you want to do that, it's entirely up to you. So I'm just kind of building my cross out of these little pieces. And I like the way that looks. So the next thing I'm gonna do is take the bag of what I call confetti glass, and I'm gonna dump it into my hand just to see what I've got. This should be a lot of clear glass, but a little bit of color. And I like to start at one corner and kind of just sprinkle my way up. This would also be a good time to include something special in your piece. A memory item or something like that. And while the cross seems really simple, I think it's the most powerful of the pieces. Look how pretty that is. You'll want to be sure, if you haven't done so already, that you have a plastic trash bag or a plastic sheet underneath your artwork. You'll also need to pour your resin in a location where the artwork will be left undisturbed for at least 12 hours. I'm going to cut off the top of my resin packet, being very careful not to cut through the plastic bag on the inside. So I like to cut up near this pink bar. There's just enough resin to do both of these pieces. This is your instruction sheet and safety information. You'll want to slide the plastic bar out and take the rod out of the middle. And then these two parts, you've got a hardener and a resin, will now be able to be mixed together. This is very important that these are mixed thoroughly. So you set a timer for 3 minutes. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Don't skimp on this part. Okay, the timer just went off and I have a thoroughly mixed bag of resin. I'm gonna give it one more squish around just to be sure. Your glue and your paint should be dry now, and we're going to snip a teeny tiny corner off of this bag. We want this resin just to barely drizzle onto our glass. You need to start with the glass part first. Don't worry about the wood yet. And you're just gonna drizzle back and forth. Drizzle back and forth, and the resin will drip down in between these pieces of glass and give everything a nice good coating, hold everything together, and really seal it up nicely. So that's probably enough for that heart. I'm gonna move over here to our cross. You have just the right amount of resin to do both of these pieces, but probably not any extra. So we're going to make sure that the glass is down, and then we can use our gloved finger to spread it over the wood area. There we go. So I've covered all of the glass on the cross. I'm going to move back over here to my heart and give it a little more drizzle. Whatever doesn't cover the glass is going to come out the side of the heart onto the wood. I want to get every last bit out of here. And then I'm going to use my finger with the glove on it to kind of spread my resin over onto my wood. I'm just kind of pulling the resin from other places where it has kind of settled and pooled over to places where it's not. You don't have to cover the wood, but I always like to. It's really a personal preference. You do want to make sure that all the glass area is covered though. Otherwise the glass isn't going to stick to the wood. We're all finished. In about 12 hours you'll be able to handle your glass art. You'll lift it up and pull the push pins out of the back. Don't forget to sign the back of your piece, and you can add these hangers that are included if you want to hang it up somewhere. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it.